Vann. I'm an attorney with Vann Attorneys, and we are so thankful that you have chosen to be with us this afternoon for this webinar. And we are going to be talking about in just a few minutes some of the topics about how to prepare for a tightening economy. And I guess the real question is whether or not we are in a tightening economy. I ask a lot of folks throughout my days just to see what people are thinking, and I know many of you do as well. Um, Regardless, the stuff that we'll be talking about today hopefully will be helpful to you today, but certainly going forward, regardless of what the economy does. And just for some housekeeping purposes, if you have a question, you can submit that two different ways. You can either send it to us by email at webinar@vannattorneys.com, or you can use the control panel on your screen and submit it that way. And we will have two poll questions in just a little bit. Would love to have your feedback just to see what you're thinking on those questions. And our next webinar will be July 13th at 3 p.m. We don't have a topic yet, so that's to be determined. But if you have a question or you have a topic that you would like for us to cover, we would appreciate you letting us know. We get great ideas from y'all, and we really do appreciate that. And if we don't hear anything from with some suggestions, we'll pick a topic that we are bouncing into quite often with many of our clients. So with that, we're going to get started today. And again, thankful that you are with us, and hopefully we're going to advance this. Let's see. All right, hopefully this is going to work. All right, so we're talking about how to protect your business in a tightening economy. Some of the things we're going to be looking at today are some tips for preparation, what to look for, and then obviously some legal options to protect your business. So what are some tips just for preparation for a tight economy, right? We always suggest know your business well. I had an opportunity to meeting with a client about a month ago, really smart owner, and he's making tons of money, thankfully, in his business, but he does not know his profit margin. He doesn't know the cost of goods sold. So we're trying to help him, right, to know his business, right? So who are your primary customers? Who's sort of the bread and butter or the core that you are trying to sell to, right? Knowing who that is and what their needs are obviously helps you in your business, especially during a tight economy. And what do they need, right? What everybody's business seems to have changed in the last 5 to 6 years. How we do it, what the numbers look like, how the inventory is kept, right? Whether or not it's kept by the supplier, whether it's kept by the customer. What do your customers need, right? Knowing those two things can help you tremendously as the market might get tight, right? And how do you go about filling the need for your customer, right? What do you need to do today to prepare for making sure that you can fill that need for your customer? Again, these are just some topics that many of you are already doing. I had one client who I've spoken with recently, and they were preparing for the market getting tighter with product in their line of business, and made some great decisions to buy a lot of material from their supplier so that they wouldn't get caught in a shortage. It has worked out tremendously well for them. In fact, they've started another business because of it, and it's been very profitable. So again, just some ideas, right? Number two, what value does your business offer to your customer, right? What's the core value that you bring for your customer, right? And how can you keep that front and center with your customer? How do you make sure that your customer knows what you're doing, how you're doing it, and why you're doing it, right? Just to serve them and hopefully make it available for them to utilize your business a whole lot more, especially during a tight economy. We've all experienced, right, what happens with just the relationship factor, right? If you've got a tight relationship and they understand and they know you appreciate them, more than likely you're going to get the nod for that business, right? Then how do you remain relevant to your customer, right? What do you need to do to make sure that what you're providing, how you're providing it, and when you're providing it is relevant to your customer? All of those things are just sort of some things I know that many of y'all think about. And how do you prepare for serving your customer better, right? What value does your business offer to your customer, right? How can you keep front and center? We talked about that a little bit. And then how do you stay relevant? So what are some tips for preparation for a tight economy, right? Looking at pricing, it may be an issue, right? Lately, it's been an increase in pricing. I don't think I've talked to any of our clients that have had to reduce price at all. And some of you I know sell products or services that might fluctuate some in pricing. But what about payment terms or other financial elements that you might need to consider when you deal with your customers, right? If the market really gets tight, which I don't think it is, frankly, but that's my crystal ball broke a number of years ago. We haven't had it fixed yet. I look at all kinds of trends, and I know many of you do. And in fact, I ask you questions, right, when I talk to you. What do you think? What's going on? And there's so many different trends, right, that I think many of us are looking at, and there's just an uncertainty. But hopefully, right, that doesn't make the market unstable for many of us, right? But again, looking at terms of payment, looking at other financial elements of that transaction. And what does the market indicate, right? Are you getting word that your competitors are dropping prices, right? Or are you hearing that there's a shortage of materials that would indicate that there's going to be an increase in price? Again, knowing that market and knowing what's going on is really important. And then we talked about what are competitors doing and how does that matter? And does it matter, right? You don't want to be involved in price fixing. That's not a very good place to be. That is a tough game to play. So please stay out of that. I know y'all do, but you don't want to be involved in price fixing. What are some new opportunities for you to capitalize on? And I tell you what, I was absolutely so impressed with so many of y'all and how you transitioned, especially during 2019, 2020, and 2021 with your business, right? So as situations change, what opportunities would be available to you and your business that you can capitalize on to increase sales, increase your margins, increase profit, right? What are those things that you need to be looking at? You want to remember, obviously, how we all adapted in the 2020 time period. Are there new ways to provide product or service to your customer? Is there a new business line that you can get started? I know several of y'all started new divisions of your business because you were servicing your customers in a different manner, right? And you found a real great niche. Some of y'all with some great profit margins during that time period, which is really exciting, right? And then another question is, are there cost savings your company can implement and still be instrumental to your customer? And I know many of you changed how you do business during the 2020 time period. I even hate to say the word pandemic, right? But during that time period, and it's turned out to be highly profitable. I know a lot of our clients we've talked to said, we're not going back to the old way, because now we found a better way and it actually saves you money, which is really, really good. What about some other ways to take care of your customer, right? To know your customer well, who is that core customer? How are they being impacted? What's the market doing to their business? And I'm hoping that y'all are having those conversations with your customer. What's going on with their business? How are they feeling, right? What are they sensing from their customers? And a lot of times that will give you the heads up as to what eventually might be coming down the line for you. Create loyalty with exceptional service is something we try to do. We're human, right? We do make mistakes, but we try really hard to show you our appreciation and our loyalty by giving exceptional service. And I know y'all do the same thing, right? How do you do that to create that loyalty so that your customer, when they start thinking about different vendors, right, or different relationships, that they go, which one do I want to work with? And then look at your inventory, right? For those of you who have inventory, know what inventory you have on hand. And I know many of y'all have do a great job of keeping that on the forefront. How quickly do you need for your inventory to be purchased or restocked? And how much does your inventory cost today, right? Do you know those things? That client that I mentioned to you earlier, we and his CPA are working with him to try and help him to understand the mechanics of his business. because you all know if you understand all of that, then your business is really set for success. And then what's your customer demands, right? What are their needs as it relates to your inventory? Do some of your customers, maybe your larger customers, have a huge project coming on board that they need you to provide more products or services than what you currently have available, or that you can't get? Or is it going to take some pipeline time to have that available? So again, just some thoughts for you to be thinking about, right? We looked for some areas where we saw other experts talking about what to look for in a tightening economy. One of the things that kept coming back was a tight labor market. Lord knows, I feel like we all are in it, because many of you I've talked to, and we're all trying to find quality labor, right? People that can help deliver the products or services that you're providing. When labor is difficult to find and the cost of labor is increasing, that's obviously one area for a tightening economy. But you know, it's really interesting. If you look at that, I would say, at least in the Southeast, the labor market has been pretty tight, right? It's difficult to find people, and the cost of the labor is increasing. Does that mean we're in a tightening economy? I don't know. What about the inflation issue, right? Certainly inflation has been and is and will remain an element for all of us to be dealing with. Credit market with the lenders are getting tight. I know many of the lenders in the Southeast have stopped lending in certain segments of the market, and will probably hold that for the duration of 23 is my guess. Don't know what 24 looks like, but we've talked to several major lenders, certainly in the business and the construction area, and many of them are tightening down on what they're being willing to lend for at this point. And then also there's a decrease in profits, right? That's obviously something else that you're looking at. And I know several of our clients that I've talked to recently have seen that a little bit of a decrease in profits, but again, profits have been record breaking for the last several years, which I know is an awesome place to be in, right? Slower sales or a rise in inventory can be signs as well. I really haven't heard much about slowing sales. It may have moderated just a little bit, but at least the people I've talked to in the last 30 to 45 days really appreciate having a breather, if you will, right? It's not a drop in sales, but it's just sort of a plateau, if you will. So we're gonna look at one of the first questions, the poll questions right now. So Michael's going to pop that up for us. So you should see that on your screen here in just a minute. He's popping that up for you. So if you would, please, when that pops up, you would take a vote on it. And thank you, Michael, for your help in making this. So are you experiencing a slowdown in payments from your customer? You got 4 possibilities there. So if you will, I know y'all are doing a great job. So we'll close that down in about 5 seconds. So is it not really, somewhat, some increase, or a bigger increase? All right, so let's look at what that result is. So the results, Michael, if you will pop that up, let's see. All right, here we go. So looks like, Michael, I think it's finished, I guess, right? And I apologize, y'all, I'm trying to do this remotely. But here we go, we got it now. All right, are you experiencing a slowdown in payments? Not really. It's 23%, somewhat 46%. Some increase and slowdown is 15%, and a big increase in 15%. So that's really an interesting spread. 23, 46. That's interesting. So again, that's a wide variety of industries and businesses, but that gives you a little bit of an example of what other folks are encountering. So Michael, thank you with your help with that. Let's look at the legal options to protect your business. Some of these are just things that I know we've talked with some of y'all about before, but it's a great time just to revisit this. is keep an eye on your accounts receivable. And I know y'all do that. I know you do it every day. Know where your problem accounts exist, right? Follow up with them quickly. Know what's going on in their business. And I know many of y'all are in constant conversation with your customers that are late pays, right? Knowing what's going on with them. Are they having a business issue? Is it a family issue? Is it a death? I just recently talked to a client who was owed a ton of money, and the primary owner had died. And we were able to step in, send some notices and some letters, get the foot in the door, if you will, with the folks who owed money to their customer, our client's customers, and we were able to get most of that money in. So again, being proactive with it matters, right? So again, knowing what's going on, not waiting 90 days. And I know most of y'all don't. I'm preaching to the choir. I get that. Be in touch with your customers, talk to them, make sure you know what's going on in their business. Provide options for them, how the customers can pay. Credit cards is certainly a very popular topic and choice for payment today. Venmo, if they can wire the funds, there are thankfully a whole host of ways people can pay today. Cash is still good, right? I know many of you don't take cash for these large payments, and I don't blame you. But obviously, if you can get the money in any way, that's a good thing to do. If you have lien rights, right? If they're applicable, don't let them expire. We've talked about lien rights, but if you have, in North Carolina, you have 120 days from the last day you do work to file or to preserve your lien on a piece of property. And for some reason, if you're dealing with someone other than the owner, and let's say you don't file your lien within that 120 days, there's a lien on funds that you still can utilize, and there is no deadline within which to give notice for the lien on funds. So just keep that in the back of your mind, right? If for some reason you don't file a lien, you still have, if your customer still owed money in the construction chain, we can still do a lien on funds. So again, just keep that in mind. If you have collateral, know where that collateral is and what the condition of it, what the condition of the collateral is. We were talking with a client just a little bit ago, and it's talking about the customers having a real difficult problem with the payment, and they have collateral protection with UCC. So we're just going to go pick up the collateral, sell it all, and apply that to the debt, and then they'll pay the rest of it somehow another way. But again, those are some options to think about, right? While we're doing this, Michael is going to pop up our second question, our second poll question. So you should see that here in just a minute. So if you would vote on that. We're doing some high tech, y'all. We're doing it between text, video, and phone. So the question is, are your rising cost of goods and services impacting your business or your customers? And y'all are voting now. We've got a few more seconds to go. If y'all would go ahead and vote. Interesting so far. It looks like 80% is yes and 20% no. So let's close that out. So it looks like, I assume, Michael, this is closed out. It looks like the answer to that question is resoundingly yes. 69% says yes, 31% says no. And I would think that would be pretty consistent with, actually, excuse me, 71% said yes, 29% said no. So rising cost of goods is impacting either your business or your customers. So 71%, not surprising, quite frankly. So let's look at the legal options about considering a payment schedule, right? And so security. We've talked about whether or not to take a promissory note. So a promissory note is just a promise to pay. And a lot of times what I tell our clients is you already have that promise to pay by virtue of your contract, right, with your customer. That's a promise to pay. A promissory note is not a bad option, right? But you already have that, so why do you want to take another one? What we would suggest to you is taking or asking for a confession of judgment. That's where the debtor, your customer, says, I agree, I owe X number of dollars, whatever the number is, to your business, and I'm willing to pay it in these ways. But if they don't pay it in that manner, then you can file the confession of judgment and it becomes a judgment. You don't have to sue them. You don't have to go through the process of filing a summons and complaint, them answering. It is a judgment, right? And then if they've made payments in that interim, you do a credit on the judgment and you're good to go. You already have a judgment. So that's why we suggest doing a confession of judgment with a payment schedule, because it's a promise to pay. And so we ask people to put their money where their mouth is. If they're promising to pay you, then why not do a confession of judgment? Many of you, I know, will get deeds of trust on real property. And again, that's a great backdrop for collateral, right? Getting something that can't move and hopefully has some value. You do need to know what the value of that property is and whether or not there are other liens that are on that property ahead of it, right? If the customer has provided deeds of trust or given deeds of trust, or their liens or other encumbrances on that property where there's no equity at all, right? You don't have a lot. It's probably better than nothing, but you don't have a lot. So you just need to sort of understand that piece of it. Liens on motor vehicles. Again, if you want to take a lien on a motor vehicle, on the back of the title, right, is where you need to make sure that that is documented. The customer needs to give you the original title, and you need to be listed as a lien creditor. So what you need to do with that is to take the title itself, right? Once you have put your information in as a lien creditor or lien holder on that vehicle, send it into DMV, and then they actually register that with a new title with you listed as the creditor. Holding the title, say in a vault or in your desk drawer and in a file, does not give you the lien, even though you've written your name on the back, right? The debtor could go to DMV and ask for a duplicate title, sell the vehicle without your permission if you have never sent in the title with the lien information on the back. So I hope that makes sense. If you're going to have a lien on a motor vehicle, you actually have to fill it out, and send it into the DMV to get that registered. So if you have any questions about that, let us know. Also, you can get a UCC, which is a Uniform Commercial Code lien on the business assets. Understand this, though, more than likely, if your customer has a banking relationship where they borrow money, it's a high chance that they've already given a UCC to their bank. Or if they have another vendor that they're utilizing for credit services, there's a good chance that they may have a UCC with the vendor. So we can check that with the North Carolina Secretary of State. You can check it and see if there are liens out there with UCCs. And if not, you can certainly take it. You can still get a UCC, even though there may be one ahead of you, but you may, again, be on the short stick side of the stick if somebody's not getting paid. So just understand that piece of it. And then another question is, how are payments to be made, right? Are they monthly? Is it weekly? Is it in certified funds, wire transfer? What does that look like, right? How are the payments to be made? And what we really try, obviously, is to get the payment sooner than later, right? We would love for wire transfers to come in, because wire transfers, once they hit, cannot be reversed. You have to make sure the numbers are right. That's really important. And you're not getting, tricked in a issue with someone changing the wiring instructions. But again, if you have got all of that taken care of, wire transfer is a great way to get paid. And again, we ask for, like to get certified funds if we can. So some of the other things we've talked about, and just as a reminder for you, right? If you have to, filing suit on the unpaid account, what you're owed for the breach, maintain accurate records is so important. And I know many of y'all do an awesome job of that, right? Knowing how much you're owed, being able to recreate those records. Are you getting finance charges? And then how, like, for example, do the finance charges apply up until the point of judgment or until it's actually paid in full? So in North Carolina, there's a statute, it's referred to as North Carolina General Statutes 24-1, that says if you use that in your contract, you can get the contract rate of interest. And if you get a judgment, post-judgment or after the judgment, until it's paid in full. So otherwise, you would get the contract rate of interest to the point of judgment, and then you would get 8% from the judgment until it's paid. Again, many of y'all have 18%. You think about 8%, that 10% is a nice cushion if you can get paid, number one. Number two, it gives you some room for negotiation and when they come back to you. So again, but you have to reference the 24-1 in your contract. If you have any question about that, let me know. We'll be glad to help you. And I know many of you do, but if you do not have an attorney's fees provision or a reasonable attorney's fees provision in your contract, we would highly encourage you to do that. We can help you if you need some help with that. It's really simple to do, but by having that kind of language in there, if you get into a legal squabble with your customer, you can get reasonable attorney's fees from your customer. And again, how the court defines that is up to 15% of the amount due and owing. So again, it's not always dollar for dollar, but it gets you some cushion for what you may have to pay when you hire an attorney. And then one of the other things we talk about a lot with clients, it seems like on a weekly basis, is getting personal guarantees in the contract, right? Are all the owners, are you getting it all, number one, or all of the owners signing? And I know we've had this conversation with many of you that are on here today. What about the spouses of the owners? And there's a way about going about asking for that. I would encourage you not to have a blanket policy that says all owners and all spouses have to sign all the time on the personal guarantee. And the reason we suggest that is you're probably not giving credit, or excuse me, you may not be giving financial credit worthiness to the business and or to the owner if that's your blanket policy. When you're looking at whether or not they're credit worthy, right? But if you're asking a creditor to sign the credit application or the contract and get personal guarantees, if that personal guarantor, right, the person who's signing is married and has real property or any or all of their other assets titled with their spouse, you're not going to get that asset at all if you get a judgment and try to go collect it, because it's going to be protected. So in that line, you cannot or should not give it any credit worthiness when you look at what their assets are versus what they're trying to borrow basically from you as a creditor. So if you have questions about that, let me know. I'll be glad to give you a little bit longer explanation of that. But my question really is, are you getting personal guarantees? And if you're not, why not? Right? I know it's a headache. I know nobody wants to sign them, but it gives you more leverage, right? We sent a demand letter for a client just recently, and they don't have guarantees. And my heart just dropped because I'm like, I have a feeling I think I know what's going to happen, unfortunately, because this business is questionable whether or not they're going to be any viability. But we're hoping, right? But with a guarantor, it helps a whole lot more. I hope this has been helpful to you. If you've got questions, you can send them to us by email or call us. Be glad to help you. I hope this has been helpful to you and giving you some information. Again, we've got another webinar coming up on July 13th. We would love for you to participate with us. And if you've got a topic that you want us to cover, let us know. Thank you so much. We hope you all have a great day and look forward to seeing you soon.